Hey guys, welcome to the Love Tribe. Don't forget to click like. If you want to share, go ahead, but definitely subscribe and be a part of the tribe. Today, I'm going to talk about a really interesting topic that I think hits everybody at their core, but for different reasons, and that is the topic of fear. Fear and how it paralyzes your life. Whether it be in decisions of career, in decisions of how you handle yourself in family dynamics, or even in decisions of how you handle yourself in romantic settings, or even when it comes to like adventures in life. How does fear paralyze you from actually living today, moving forward, as opposed to thinking of the past? Okay, so we have some great guests. We have Patricia, we have Cassie, and we have a great friend, Jenny. So I'm going to let each one introduce themselves a little bit. You're gonna tell us a little bit about yourself and what is something that you have or a fear that you've had in life, okay? Starting with Patricia, go ahead.
My fear is, I think, is a very typical one, which is fear of flying. And I believe I acquired that because when I moved here, I had flown for the first time. And the plane was hit by a thunderstorm.
So it was actually hit?
That was my first time flying, the first time exposed to all this lightning going in the area where the plane was flying. And I was so afraid because the plane started, moving funky.
Wow.
It was a very scary situation, and then I didn't fly anymore until maybe 10, 12 years later.
Okay.
And I'm still having trouble with that because when I need to go somewhere, I don't get excited.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm being
You
held
get more
back.
anxiety than anything else.
Yes, I'm being held back. And when I had to do it, to go visit my father when he died, I almost killed my mother because she was with me in the plane, and I was like pulling her arms, pulling her hair, getting really nervous, even though I was under some medication. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Anxiety just overpowered everything.
Oh wow, that's
so. And
I didn't know that about you.
And I still have to, I still have to deal with it. But I have flown, like, not all the time, but a lot of years pass by.
Right.
But I make myself go and try to conquer
force
it.
yourself.
But I can't conquer it.
Okay, all right.
Conquer
we'll get back
the
to
fear.
that.
No.
We're gonna get back to that later. Cassie, what about you?
A lot of my fear has stemmed from my experiences with humans, like so human-to-human interactions.
Yeah.
Of course, that can be many things. And I notice now that fear I have of people. I'm a mom, so that's affecting how I mother my children.
Right.
So I don't want to say I'm poisoning them with my fear, but I do put limitations on them that maybe I wouldn't if I wasn't exposed to, some things in my past. So
Got you.
that's fear for me.
Okay, so like fear of like human interactions.
Human, I guess it's the negative of humans, like how people can hurt you physically, emotionally, mentally, yeah, it's terrifying.
So she's reacting to negativity.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. I can handle normal negativity conversation. I guess I mean more in a polite way saying it, physical interaction with human in an inappropriate way.
Right.
Where my fear stems from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can understand that because I used to have a lot of that.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, we're gonna talk about techniques at the end to try, but it just gets to the point where it's like you gotta just not care anymore and kind of just it's a process of overlooking that a lot, but that takes time.
Of course.
But I can totally understand why that exists.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing. Jenny, what about you? What is a fear that you have?
Well, number one is the fear of flying, which Patricia was talking about too. That is heavy right now. Every time I travel, I use something
To calm you down?
Calm me down. But also I have fear of needles. Every time I get to
The doctor.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and they, blood work.
How did that start?
I get very tense, and they say to me, "This is nothing. Have you had children?" I said, do you have children? I said, yes. So I'm carrying these 2 children. This is nothing. I said, yes, you're right. But this is all the time. Children was once in life. I make them laugh, you know.
It's still valid.
Yes.
Fear is still valid.
Well, that's still a valid
Fear,
fear.
you know, I guess like this tense. Yeah. Very tense.
Would you say that when you get tense, it's anxiety for you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Cassie, would you say that when your fear of like human interactions comes into your mind, is it anxiety that?
It's totally anxiety induced.
Anxiety?
Yeah, big time.
And Patricia, what about you?
I like to make a good point. I was not born with it.
Okay.
I acquired it through a negative reaction to a negative,
I agree with that.
negative
Same,
circumstance. You know,
I'm
it was
glad you
something
brought that up.
negative. Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yes.
brought that up because what
So
I was
it's
gonna
exterior.
I think so. I agree with it.
Yeah.
what I was gonna
not born
mention
with
is
it.
that actually the statistics show that like 12.5% of population in the United States actually struggle with fear. And 12.5% seems like a very low number, but it's in terms of like billions of people. So it's a lot of people that because of fear,
Yeah.
they're not moving forward in their life,
Yeah.
or there's things that they're not experiencing. And most of those fears were all acquired. They don't stem from like, you know,
This is true.
They're not innate.
Neanderthal type
Yeah.
of fears where it's like I'm afraid of like wild animals. No, it's more fears that are acquired over experiences of time, and they all have to do with situations that have either put their life at risk or have broken their heart severely.
And we break them apart, negative and positive.
Exactly.
We don't fear the negative, the positive. We fear only the
We
negative.
fear only the negative. So you could have, they actually did a test where they, with mice, where every time the buzzer went off, the mice went to get the food in the little, it's like I don't know what you call it, like a little drawer that would come up and get food. But with some mice, when they did this test, the sound, they would do a little beep and the mice would go to get the food, but they would be electrocuted, right? I mean, it's a horrible test, but that's how they were able to figure out that eventually, as they kept repeating that, even though the mice knew that the food was there, because of their fear of electrocution or it wasn't electrocuted, but it was like a little zap, they would avoid it. They would not get the food. They would actually starve.
Oh.
So put that experiment now into human brain, how the human mind reacts to fear, and that's why people will at times they not make a decision. They're not like secure in their decisions, or like they can't get on a plane, you know, or like nowadays we're seeing a lot of people are struggling with establishing, you know, families, establishing even relationships. There's this big topic going around when it comes to the love world, romantic world, of like people don't want to commit anymore. People are so afraid of commitment because to them commitment just means, you know, like the end of my autonomy and a fear of the unknown, because that's a different way of living, that they'll actually avoid commitment and not move forward, like the mouse not going to get the food.
Right.
They prefer to starve. They prefer to be
And
alone.
that's usually through somebody else's experience. You know,
Because of
that's
somebody
fear.
else's experience,
You don't want to go through it.
So I put down some notes here so that I wouldn't forget that basically what fear does, it actually interrupts the process in the brain that regulates your emotions, and it automatically creates anxiety and stress. And the psychology organization basically listed like 5 reasons for fear, and the number 1 reason is past experiences. Number 1. The second one is learned responses, like how they learn to respond to situations based on what's been happening. Like they'll respond a specific way all the time, that they don't know how to respond differently when the situation is not something to be afraid of.
Right.
They'll still respond as if it's fear.
Yeah.
And then the other one that they mentioned is reactions to panic. So they react to it as if it's something to be panicked. Another cause for fear is long-term factors, like things that have happened or that they've done for a long time. That makes them feel fear of moving forward, because they're like, I've always been this way, or things have always been like that, or getting on a plane has always caused this,
Right.
or like needles always hurt, so I'm always gonna feel like it's something to be afraid of. And then the last one, which to me surprised me, the last one was genetic factors. I would think genetic
Really?
factors would be more at the top. Genetic factors are the last, according to psychology.org. So the past and learned responses are the first 2. So here's my question. Knowing that fear is something negative for you, what have you done? What have you tried to do to overcome your fear? So what have you tried to do, Patricia, to overcome your fear?
Well, I forced myself to get on a plane again, but a lot of years went by. I mean,
Right.
it took me a long time to get on a plane again. Like I flown to the Bahamas thinking that a small plane would be different.
Right.
An experience in a smaller plane would be, and it was worse because it went down
Oh, that
this
plane
way.
went down?
It went down,
Wait.
and then when it was about to hit the water, it went back up again.
Wait, but was it on purpose doing that?
I think it had a malfunction in the plane.
Oh man.
That's
yeah.
really unfortunate.
So,
That's unfortunate.
so
You're trying.
I try. I push myself to do it to see if I can cure it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's kind of hard.
Okay, so your way of like getting over
It's
the fear
keep going at
is to
it.
keep going, keep like facing it.
Yeah.
At least attempt to face it
yes,
and get over
I
it.
face it all the time. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cassie, what about you? What is something that for you?
I think the same. Just trying to face your fears, like being alone at night, like walking somewhere, or taking, for me personally, taking cautionary methods to have, like as a woman walking around alone, like having pepper spray, just so I can feel more secure and safe. And I think reaffirming myself, like doing the self-talk and giving myself the reassurance that I need to calm down. It's a work in progress,
Yeah.
you know, like all of us. But
Does self-talk help you in comparison to before when you didn't used to have that kind of self-talk?
I think
do you
it-
notice a change?
I do notice a big change. Yeah, I think it's reassuring me that like it's okay to be afraid. It keeps you safe, but also you are safe. Like you are safe. Like
Right.
this is fine. You don't have to be freaking out over this walk or this this or whatever.
And you do that of caution.
Right. Exactly.
You're always
Now
just
I'm
always cautious
being
about,
cautious
yeah.
now. So I mean,
Because of the atmosphere, I mean,
right,
the surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. So like fear is good in the way that it teaches you lessons and you can be more prepared.
Right.
But it is crippling in the way that it does hold you back from maybe traveling or like going to dance at night or traveling to a new country by yourself, things like that.
It can be scary because I remember I used to always envision traveling alone when I was younger, but I would never do it even though I had the ability to. And then like 3 different times on 3 different occasions, connecting flights I was on got like delayed like overnight, and I had to stay in like Barcelona for like 2 days because the next flight out was going to be the flight that they arranged for me. And then the other time I got stuck in Amsterdam, and I was like, shoot, I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
But I had the experience of like exploring a place by myself that
Right.
wasn't even planned.
Yeah.
And the fear initially was like, I just want to get on the next plane and like
Right.
leave. I don't
Wanna
want to
be
be
safe.
stuck here. So what that experience showed to me was I actually was able to enjoy a different setting, different countries as a result of just saying, well, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Let me just enjoy while I'm here, because when is the next time I'll be here?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I did that. But that's why today I'm very confident in looking at something that's fearful and just saying, well, just go for it.
Yeah.
Just try it. What's the worst that's on the other side of the coin?
Make the best of what you have.
Exactly. So Jenny, what about you? What's something that you've done to try to overcome your fear?
Okay, let me first say something about flying. For me, the best way is just not to worry about it, because that's the only way I can get to from A place to B place. So I have to face it regardless. Okay. But before that, I board the plane. I go and give myself some shots.
Yeah.
1 or 2. That's fair. That relaxes me.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if I don't do that, then I take the pill. When I do the pill from the doctor, I don't drink.
Right.
But sometimes I don't have the time to go to see the doctor, call him, and I just go and have some drinks in the bar. But I was going to say something when you were talking about it, Dot, okay?
Go ahead.
When I was 2 years old, and I think it's because of younghood, I don't know. It was not that I was born 2 years old. My mother was telling me a story that we were flying from a city to another city in Costa Rica, because I'm from Costa Rica. And it was a turbulence, very bad. My mother thought that we were gonna die in that plane. I think.
So you remember
I think
that.
since 2 years, it's been with me.
Yeah.
It
I don't know.
affected you.
Affected me, but I was a child. I don't know.
So like it's a learned response. It wasn't like you don't remember enough of that experience.
I don't remember.
But she taught you that response based on what happened.
She-
So it just became
Yes,
ingrained
when
in
she
you.
said that to me, I said now, because she didn't know. I never, with trouble, I never said anything. But as a year went by and I mentioned it to her that I was always afraid, she says, yes, I remember when we had that incident when you were 2 years old. At least she didn't affect her, but
right.
affected
It
me.
affected you. It stayed in your
Bad.
mind. Which
I
yeah,
think so. I think so. That's what
the
it is with
second
me.
thing on the list, that learned responses actually basically tattoo fear into your brain, like for good.
And the about needles, what I do
How do
is
you overcome that?
just don't look.
Look away?
That's the best advice that I tell people. You have to do it, right?
Yeah.
You just don't look, okay? And I let it go.
Yeah.
I will be honest. I will say that my biggest fear, or a fear for me, like my biggest fear is fear of it's fear of disappointment. I fear being disappointed.
Listen, that
Not because
sounds
of the person, just because of how life is. You
Could
know.
be.
Because you could be very positive
Yes.
and energetic and happy about something because you expect a lot.
Even if you expect, this is the
Yeah.
thing, like this is why I think developing a seize the day mentality is really wonderful, because then you enjoy things for what they are now, and then expectation doesn't matter, because you're seizing the moment now. But what I've come to realize is, even if you are a super mentally healthy person, and you are in experiences with people, disappointment always happens.
Yeah.
Like it's
Exactly.
impossible for it not to happen. So you have to be flexible with that. But that's my fear of disappointment. Why do I say that? Because sometimes the disappointment could be so great that it actually just cuts all ties and breaks down the bridge of what even existed. So my fear is of that, is that all ties and bridges are broken and cut, and whatever was connected can no longer be because of that disappointment.
Right.
So I fear disappointment. Not the person doing something bad or hurting, but the disappointment situation just cuts everything down for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah, it does.
really
You know, it's like if you have a building or two buildings and there's a bridge that connects them, the disappointment just destroys the bridge.
Right.
And then you're far from that other person.
And I never want to cross it. I don't even want to build a bridge
Right.
because it's just like,
Yeah. Too much work, too much
But
effort.
my God,
Yeah.
when I'm talking to you, so many things comes up to me that is fear. I have fear of heights. When you say bridge, I'm looking at the clear glass
fear of heights.
bridge and
Yeah.
looking at the,
They have those buildings in New York where you go to the balcony and the clear glass.
It's fear
Those are the
to me.
I would rather be afraid of heights than be afraid of disappointment. Because
You
at
think
least,
so?
yeah, because at least heights is something like it's
Physical.
like an
You have to
actual
face it, yes.
tactical thing that I can choose to like just not face.
Yeah.
But disappointment, like take today for instance, I had invited several people to come, and like two of them were going to be part of the panel. So it was going to be you guys, but I had additional people, and then I was here, and my fear of them disappointing me was like them not showing up.
I
I'm not
see.
upset with them, but it's the fact that disappointment still happens. So
Right.
what would I do now? Just give up? Be like, no, I'm not going to do this now.
I see.
But disappointment actually creates a scenario where, like, the next time I want to record, and I'll use this because we're doing it now. The next time I want to record and I invite someone and everything's set up or whatever, I always keep in mind, last minute they could still cancel. not
So
show
you're
up.
afraid of something might always be happening.
I'm not, but I'm
and
not
not
afraid.
go as
I've
you
actually-
plan it.
But I've actually realized that it happens. It happens regardless.
It's
You
everywhere.
weren't expecting me, and I'm here.
No, I was not expecting you.
Positive reinforcement.
So this is something that I found out in researching fear to try to understand, like, why do people behave as they do when it comes to certain things. Fear actually affects the amygdala in your brain, and the result of that is there's an imbalance between the limbic system and your frontal lobe. So your emotional part and your frontal lobe, which is like logic, will be affected by fear, because you can no longer like balance what's going on in your mind to see, okay, there's nothing to be afraid about, let me just keep going. So it ruins the chance, it actually ruins the chance of you being able to like keep moving forward. So fear will actually make you mentally stuck. Even if you're traveling, even if you're doing radical sports, you could be physically moving your body to do things, but in your mind you can actually be stuck with the fear of
I felt that.
of experiencing that.
I felt that because
Right?
I got
Can
to
you
the
tell me
place. That fear of flying
Yeah.
caused me such a grief that even when I was at the place where I needed to go and be there for 4 days, I did not enjoy myself
Do you see?
because I knew I had to go back into a plane again to get back to point A.
That happens to me too.
Yeah.
What about you, Cassie?
Same. I was in Portugal in November, and I don't have a fear of flying, sorry.
It's okay.
But I got there, I was excited, happy, and then realizing like I'm here alone. Like I came here by myself.
Kudos to you, girl.
So but then like that fear sets in of something bad can happen to me. Like
And there's
someone
no
can
one
hurt
here.
me, and I don't have family here, I don't have a friend with me. So I enjoyed it, but it's always in the back of your head, like someone could mug me, someone could rob me, someone could hurt me, I'm a woman, like whatever, you know.
Well,
So
the good
it
thing is
holds
you
you
went to
back.
Portugal.
holds
It's a
you
pretty
back,
safe
yeah.
country.
Portugal's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm
like,
from Portugal.
I don't ever
Yeah.
nothing
I
bad to
wanted to
say
go
about
there.
it. It's
Yeah.
such a you might have to do it. Love
Go
it.
to Portugal, guys. Definitely worth
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Very safe. It's super safe for even, someone like me scared.
With all the fear.
The food is delicious.
The food's amazing. It's beautiful. The people were really nice.
Yes.
But the concept of traveling alone
It is scary.
is scary.
Of
Yeah.
course it is, especially for a woman.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what about you, Jenny? How do you feel about like your body could be in motion, you could be doing all these things, but you're still mentally stuck because of fear? Do you think that's true?
Kind of, yeah, in a way, yes, but
Fear can take away your enjoyment, even if you are in the middle of something.
I was
good.
laughing because what Patricia said, I enjoying the time that I gonna go and see the family. For instance, I
Right.
travel a lot because I had to see the family.
But you're thinking about the way back.
But then, in the middle of the time that I'm there, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's getting closer to
Leaving, yeah.
leave again and
Get on the
confront
plane.
and be in the plane again.
Yeah.
That's
so
something
that comes back again to you.
yes, it does. That's why I was laughing because it does that.
So I did a bit of a quick research from like different sites, and I even went on ChatGPT to get like to see if the answers matched. And the strongest fear, what do you guys think is the strongest fear that exists? I'll just ask you that first before I say it. The strongest fear.
A lot of people have insects,
Insects?
roaches,
That's gross.
mice.
Yeah,
too.
mice. The strongest fear. What do you think is the strongest fear?
Well, there's a list of over 100 phobias, so I
Phobias.
guess those
Okay.
100 phobias are practically
Okay.
I feel like flights. Heights or
Heights?
bugs. Those are pretty.
Heights and bugs.
Yeah.
The
think
strongest,
so.
the strongest fear that exists, and I was surprised. I thought it would be like a.
I
bug
think
or
it's
something.
abandonment.
Bug, I say.
Abandonment.
No, the,
Death or abandonment. I don't know. You go ahead.
the strongest
Because
fear.
if I see something right now running here, I will jump in.
But the strongest fear in general, like when I took samples of large populations and they, surveyed what is
Survey,
what is the strongest fear you have, or what is the strongest fear out of the 10 on the list, it's fear of the unknown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Fear of the unknown.
Yes. Yes.
Which definitely explains why people nowadays are having fear of like simple things in their life, like dying, or fear of like I think the biggest fear right now is the fear of commitment. People just don't know how to commit because you got to look at their own life. You got to look at their own life.
preaching
Because they don't know it. Because they don't know it. They don't
It's
know it.
unknown. Why? Because I'll say this: when it comes to commitment, the reason why people have a fear of that, and you have to have compassion with them, is because like a commitment with you is not the same as a commitment with another person, or this person, or the person from their past. So a commitment is always an unknown.
Yeah.
And that fear of the unknown, even if you are a super lovely, amazing person, will actually be enough for them to walk away and not want to be in it, which is kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, right?
It is. It's super sad.
It is kind of sad.
Now that you say it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But of
Fear
course,
of the unknown.
Yeah.
Fear of the
I
unknown.
agree with that.
So what do you think? What do you guys think is stronger than fear?
It's stronger, an emotion that's stronger than fear?
Yes.
Love.
What do you think, Cassie?
I think love or hope.
Love or hope. What do you think is stronger than fear?
love.
Love. It's love. It's the name of the. It's the name of the channel, Love Tribe. It is. the
Yeah, baby.
What's stronger than fear is actually love, but only if you participate in it. Like psychologists actually realize that yes, love is stronger than fear, but the individual themselves have to participate in action of love in order to overcome their fear. So that means that if a person's not participating in loving ways, whatever they're afraid of is gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're not doing an act that's opposite to it. Like for instance, I have a fear of being disappointed. So maybe I'll fear like letting someone close to me, right? But I won't do anything to counteract that. Like I won't be kind. I won't be my genuine self. I'll be really closed off, standoffish. I know that I might even come off I'm too stoic, right? And I'll stay in my space because out of
Comfort
fear I
zone.
stay that way.
Yeah.
It takes me choosing to be kind and to be loving to counteract that fear, to kind of tell fear to shut up. Like I'm gonna step forward with this. Like yes, fear is there, but I'm like I'm like shut up. I'm gonna
Right.
counteract with a loving action.
Right.
And once I do that, I realize, oh, there's really nothing to be afraid of. You know, regardless of what the outcome is, I still appreciate the fact that I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, but it takes participation. Like you can't just say that love is bigger than fear and not do anything.
Right.
It takes you acting out. Like for instance, when you were in Portugal and you were afraid of being alone, what was something you did to help yourself enjoy it?
I put myself out there in a way of like I went to the markets, I talked to people at the market, I talked to a few people at a bar, went dancing.
Okay.
So I put myself in situations to reassure myself that like it's fine, you can live, like you're allowed to live, because it's better than locking yourself up in a room and being afraid. all the
Exactly.
time.
Right.
So I think-
Socializing.
Right.
So when you did that, did you do that out of love for yourself?
Yes, I wanted
See?
to give myself a chance to like, don't hold yourself back.
Enjoy,
like go and
yeah.
live. If whatever happens, happens, and
Exactly.
you can't hold yourself back, type of deal.
What about you, Jenny? What is a moment where you've had a fear of something, but because out of love, you've chosen to do something different?
I really don't have an answer right now.
You don't have an answer?
No.
What about you, Patricia?
Yeah, I did the same thing as Cassie. You know, I was to go to Manaus, Brazil for 4 days to get to know the university I was working for. And they had festivals at that time. So I went and enjoyed with the people from there, with the natives.
Right.
Enjoy the time and
Even though you knew,
even though I knew I had only 4 days,
Yeah.
and the fourth day I was going bananas because I knew I had to fly back.
you still wanted to enjoy it.
Yes. Because I'm a very, very adventurous person, but the only thing that holds me back is that the fear
The
of
flying.
flying.
I can't believe that, you see people in the plane and you think that they all enjoy it and you don't know what is
No,
going on.
it's
You
a
don't
lot
know
of
what's
it's
going
a
on
lot
in
of
their
things.
mind.
You don't know
It's a lot of things going in
I
their
looked
mind.
at them and I say to myself, I'm the only one here
No,
facing this.
you're not
I'm the
alone.
only
You're not
one
alone.
There's a lot of people in the plane like going through that
You're
same
not alone,
sensation.
yeah.
You see what she says, imagine she sits next to me. The only thing I will say to you that when I'm there and I get those, drops.
It messes with your stomach.
Turbulence.
No,
yeah.
I grab whoever. I don't care who that person is.
I was just
care
gonna
less.
say, if we sit next to each other, we'll pull each other's hair
I get
and
like
scratch
this.
our hands. And
And one day I was next
I'm
to
fine
this
with that,
guy.
it's
I
okay.
was next to this guy.
That's what I did
and
to my mom.
grabbed
I'm
him
sure he
like
loved
this.
it. I'm sure he loved it.
I was like, and then I said, I'm so sorry. I was like, no.
Well, let's talk about. So we talked about physical fears of things, but let's talk about fears when it comes to relationships.
Oh my God. What do you have to say?
Why I want to talk about that? Because when I researched what's the strongest fear, it's fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
But the second biggest fear people have is loss of autonomy. And loss of autonomy comes with relationships, right?
Yeah.
So how would you say a relationship makes you feel like, does fear or does a relationship stir up fear for you? I'll be honest, for me it stirs up fear because a relationship brings me a sense of fear of just being disappointed, being severely let down for no reason.
That's true.
That's what relationships or the idea of one does for me. You know, so when you're in solitude, you don't have that problem because you can rely on yourself and you're not going to disappoint yourself.
Yeah, you can just be.
Yeah. Does the idea of a relationship trickle fear into your mind when you think about it?
To an extent, I think when I look at relationships, something that I would be afraid of is not having my own time to do what I need to do.
Right.
And the fear would be that I have a partner that doesn't like water my grass, like doesn't want me to grow and be a person that I want to be. They want to just take all your time and you just be with me and that's it.
It's asphyxiating.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the fear would be someone that wouldn't
We control you.
wouldn't let me be who I am while being there as support too, and vice versa, of course. Like I wouldn't want to limit someone else. So I think that's where it stems from, is not being able to live as if I'm my normal day to day. Like I want to go to get coffee and be here. I want to go with this girlfriend. I want to go paint, and it be okay. I think that's where it lies.
Would it cause a problem?
Right. I don't want it to cause a problem, and to me, it's almost not even worth it, you know, to engage in relationships, because a lot of times people are very dependent and develop codependent tendencies.
But I also think and this is where there's a misunderstanding, and people don't people don't try to be compassionate.
Yeah.
When you are because relationship can trigger fear in your mind, right? But there has to be an exchange of there has to be an exchange of language. For instance, perhaps you're thinking that a relationship has to be all of those things, and so you're bringing that to the table with another person, but the other person's thinking something totally different. And I feel like you both sides need to talk that through first, you know, before you start judging and assuming that, oh my God, I'm not going to have my own time or my own space. I think there should be an understanding of no, maybe we just need to understand and mold what works for us, you know? It takes some time for that to happen, and I think people want to enter into things and it work right off the bat, and it's no, it doesn't. If the other individual is telling you they don't understand, or maybe they're not going to say it, but instead of just assuming, maybe explain your perspective. You know, share, because I'm sure if you shared that, whoever is on the receiving end be like, oh, well, that's how you feel. Well, it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, but people often don't talk those things out, and they listen to their fear.
Yeah.
And they just, what do? They just hide, basically, right? Yeah. What about you, Jenny? Do you think, when you think of relationship, does fear trickle into your mind?
Yes, I'm facing that right now. Into the dating side, and always thinking of the unknown.
Yeah.
And what are they expecting out of me?
Yeah.
You know, that's a kind of a fear, and then disappointment.
Yeah.
That true is something that I don't like it. You know, because once I start hearing so many stories, either them or me, I get disappointed. Probably they get disappointed of what I'm saying to them.
Exactly.
And I get disappointed, vice versa. Sometimes I don't want to continue, you know.
Keep what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? You know, so I get disappointed.
Yeah.
Very much.
What about you, Patricia? Does the idea of a relationship trickle fear into your mind?
The worst thing that I can think of is somebody that will be needy. If they're needy, I will not match with them, because they will inflict their schedule I would have to always be thinking, oh, I got to go cook. Oh, I got to go this. I got to go that. You know, like if somebody's too needy, then I think that they will take my freedom away.
But I don't see.
They will take my freedom away.
But what if that's not the case? What if the person, it's not that they're needy, but they're thinking that that's how it should be? Like I'll even share from my side, for instance. I have an idea of how it should be, but that doesn't mean that my idea is right. But because of my idea of how it should be, I feel like this is how I should show up. So let me be this way because that's what I feel like I should be. But it takes the other individual sometimes explaining to me, no, I don't need that, or it's okay if that's not there. I think like things get lost in communication.
Right.
And then I think fear just messes it all up.
Yeah.
Fear doesn't allow you to communicate, you know?
People are afraid to communicate.
And I feel like that's why relationships bring fear to people. Sometimes you actually could be across the table from like your perfect match, but because you're not communicating. And you're assuming that the other person is gonna be an imposition or whatever it is, you actually ruin that bridge out of fear.
But now that you're saying that, I can't come up with this. I don't know if it's fear, but I like to ask questions. That's when you said in communication. I like to ask questions.
Do they like to answer?
Some of them say that I ask too much.
But you gotta check your boxes.
But you gotta know. But that's called communication.
Yeah, but they don't like it. Men are not equal as us, you know. We don't mind if you
they're
ask
more
me
private,
questions.
I think
more
men
private.
don't want. Yeah, men don't
they-
want questions
yes.
because I think between men and women, I feel like men have more fears than women, because men, when it comes to relationship dynamics, men have to show up more than a woman does. That's what I think, because they have to be the one pursuing. They have to be the one. Basically, they're guiding where it's going. If they're not doing it, you as a woman should not be doing it. You know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think too, women, it's generally more accepted that they're talking and expressing their feelings.
Yeah.
And like we're natural communicators, I feel more.
Yes, I think so. We
So-
are more communicator. Yeah.
Right. And then when you have a guy in that picture or whoever you're dating, you know, they might see you talking so much as being yourself because it's what you're used to, and then they're like, oh gosh, like it's a lot.
That's when the fear comes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
they're-
know if
they're
I
afraid.
should keep on going and ask questions. That's when
Exactly.
I keep quiet, and that's not good.
It's not good because then you're going to experience something that, well, eventually you're going to see what you don't like anyway, or you're going to see what you do like. So even if you don't ask questions, I feel like through action, you always end up seeing it anyway, you know? So loss of autonomy is the second biggest fear. But now let's talk about what can we do to release the idea of fear? Like, what are some things that can help you get rid of fear? For me, what has always helped me get like outside of my fears, because like recording a podcast is something to be afraid of. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not gonna lie either. I don't like
It's a huge
it.
undertaking.
I was going to ask how long it's gonna be.
I've had this idea bubbling in me for some time, and I just started a few months ago. So it takes action. The one way for me to overcome fear is by actually putting something into action. So recording and actually making it happen to me is putting it into action. I overcome my fear and I realize, you know what? It's not that bad. It actually makes other people like curious about what's going on. I get a lot of followers that message me and like they like the content or they like the energy that they get from the content. And that makes me feel confident. So I've come to find that actually doing an action to fight my fear has the reward of confidence. And that's why when you see someone who is like, usually the people that try to boast the most confidence, they have the most confident attitude, those are the individuals that have the most fear. That's a psychological secret.
I can see that, yeah.
So we put this in perspective when it comes to men versus women. Men that are overly confident and they're great speakers and they're great, you know, they're the life of the group, or they have, you know, big personalities. They have the most fears. They have the most fears because that big personality exists to
hide
overshadow
something,
the fears they have of the unknown, the fear of loss of autonomy, Those are the fears that they have. And that's why you'll find today very successful people
It's a facade.
not able to commit.
Yeah.
You'll have successful men and women unable to commit because the most confident individuals, even especially professionally, they're the ones battling the greatest fears. Fears of their past, fears of things they've learned over time, not wanting to deal with that, the fear of, and then that doesn't allow them to give anything a chance. Because if you don't give something a chance, you can't collect new evidence. And if you don't collect new evidence, you're always going to have the same theory in your head, you know? So what are some things that you recommend to overcome your fears, Patricia?
I think that exactly what we're doing now, expose your feelings, share your feelings.
Yeah.
Because that gives you the chance and opportunity to find out other people are in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? That you have a lot of commonality with them. So just, it's a human being thing, you know? Expose your fears, talk about your fears and your feelings.
Yeah.
Not really fears, but feelings. And then you become more comfortable with yourself. You know, and because others are going through the same thing you're going through.
I have found that the road to being authentic is definitely just being able to say, hey, I have a fear of disappointment.
Right.
Or like my other fear is fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
And because I know that, then I'm able to communicate that. And I actually feel confident about it.
Yeah,
because
expose your personality, what you're
why
made
am I
of.
gonna, why am I gonna counteract that with some way of being that is like more my ego and less my person as like my essence.
Right.
I'd rather just be like, these are the things that I fear, and they're on the table. It's just be comfortable with that, because then you accept yourself the way you are. What about you, Cassie? What are some things? What are some things that you think you put into practice to overcome fear?
I think kind of a mix of what you both are saying. I think sharing in your human experience, it makes you human, but it allows others to be human as well.
Right.
So if you're sitting here saying, like, I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z, the other person now has the door open to be themselves and share as well. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And
Like you create a safe space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're kind of not like you're a therapist, but you become a welcoming, loving home. you know, for whoever. I think expressing yourself, whether to a therapist, a friend, whoever. And I think just facing it, like you said, just do the thing you're afraid of and create a new pattern. You do something enough times, you see it actually is okay for me to do this. Like, this isn't going to be bad. So you change the narrative in your head by practicing something that you might have been afraid of.
So like affirmations,
kind of,
in a way,
pretty much.
that are positive.
And be authentic. You know?
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Jenny? What are some things that you put into practice, or that you suggest putting into practice to overcome fears?
Sincerity.
Sincerity, being
Yes.
sincere.
That's and be you.
And be you.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Because like I expressed my two fears here, and they have nothing to do with physical things. They have everything to do with how people relate to me. And it's really hard for people to admit that, you know. And I find that the sincerity of admitting that allows me to just be more of a real person with individuals. So I wrote down some pointers as to how you can release fear from your body. The biggest recommendation is take a time out. You know, people sometimes don't take a time out. Sometimes you need to take the day off of work, or you need to disappear by yourself for the day. Take a time out and just create distance. Distance is a big key to just releasing fear from your body. Another thing is breathe through the panic. You know, people that have panic attacks are actually recommended by their doctors to breathe through it before attempting medication. Even if they have a prescription, like try to breathe and calm yourself down. And then the third one is face it. Like we were saying, face it. Face your fear, you know. The fourth thing that I recommend is imagine the worst. In order to overcome what you're afraid of, you have to imagine what would the worst case scenario be. If it's rejection, oh well, maybe that's God's protection for you. Or if it's rejection in terms of a job or of an opportunity, that's okay. Sometimes you gotta hear 100 no's before you hear the one yes. That doesn't mean that you're not doing something great. And then the fifth one that I think for me has really been helpful, and like some pastors even recommend this, is look at the evidence. Sometimes you're afraid of things in your life. Look at the evidence of your past. Like what has taken place before, you know? And if what has taken place before has gone a certain way, it is more likely going to probably go that way now. So that's not a bad thing. Like if we're talking about how you've lost an opportunity for work, or financially things have gone not so great, but how did you overcome it back then? And if you overcame it back then use that evidence to know that going forward it could probably work again that way, you know? So then it actually drops your fear. The other thing that's good to like release fear from your body is don't try to be perfect.
Right.
People have such a they put such a weight on being
like
perfect that they don't realize that trying to be perfect and thinking it has to be a specific way, you actually sabotage
They're missing out. Yeah.
your opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wrote here is visualize a happy place. Like visualize that on the other side of what you're afraid of is probably the happiest thing, or just something amazing that you would never have had before if you didn't try it. I often go for the feeling. Like, what does that mean? Like something that makes me afraid, but that I'm like, I start to envision like, well, what would it be like if I actually did something to like oppose this, or did something to make a situation better? And then I visualize the other side of it, like as the most happiest feeling ever.
Nice.
Just that sensation alone is enough to make me try to just go for it. Then put forth an action that's going to make the situation better, even though you're afraid. Just do it.
Right.
So those are my tips, you know. Take a time out, breathe through the panic, face it, imagine the worst so that you can deal with it if it does happen. Look at the evidence of your past. Don't try to be perfect, and visualize a happy place.
Those are good
So
pointers.
do you guys
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yes.
I'm down to try it.
Yeah, those are good pointers. Yeah.
So I invite you guys to try that at home. Definitely my favorite one is to basically look at the evidence. Because all of the things that you are afraid of today, if you look at the evidence of your past and how you overcame that, apply that to your future. And honestly, thank you so much for sitting with us. Thank you for sitting with Patricia, Cassie, and Jenny, and me, Carla. I love you guys so much for watching and being a part of my channel. And please, like, share, subscribe. If you get a chance, get my book. Oh, something fell from my book, Seeking Salvation. It's in Barnes & Noble. The link is down below. I love you so much for watching. Have a good one. Peace out.